Welcome to another episode, Pound for Pound Boxing Report, episode 248. I am your host, Michael. Joining me this week, got him out the back cave this week. Big fight to talk about it in the lower weight division, so had to bring him back. That's from Corruption and Boxing. Also joining me this week, Daniel from the Inscriber, as well as What You Need. What's going on, fellas?
What's happening, Mike?
Indeed. I want to give a shout out to those in the chat who's already on the show. They're ready to get things going. McGregor, aka Unrivaled Boxing Talking News. Thanks for joining us. I was on a channel with him. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and he said he would be on the next episode. So thanks for joining us, as well as Big Rotten Apple. For those who are new to Pound for Pound Boxing Report, Pound for Pound Boxing Report live YouTube show, podcast, as well as blog, discussing all things boxing. The motto is when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When it's bad, we will talk about it. Bottom line is, if it concerns the sweet science, we will talk about it. If you want to find out all information regarding Pound for Pound Boxing Report, the blog page is the place to go to. p4pboxingreport.wordpress.com. That's the link. If you check the right of the blog page, you will find links to where to find Pound for Pound Boxing Report all over social media, as well as links to where to find the podcast on every basic platform, available platform that carries podcasts. We're just about everywhere, including new to Spotify. And let not all things or most things are not free, including the production of this podcast. So if you also check the blog page, you will find links to PayPal and Cash Me donate button. Let donation be the best nation. I don't care how much you give. 50 cents, $1, $2, $5, 10. And if you want to donate more, please do, since we just finished tax season here in the U.S. So whatever spare change you have in your pocket, please share some with Pound for Pound Boxing Report. We'll greatly appreciate it. Let's get things going. Going here with a bit of breaking news. This news broke even after I placed out the docket to everybody here on the show, as Triple G via Instagram released a statement saying that he will no longer work with Abel Sanchez. Abel Sanchez is not one bit happy about this news. He claims that Triple G was shorting him some money, was going to cut his pay, in the aftermath of his signed deal with DAZN. A whole lot of talk about it right now. I'll go to you first, Daniel, then you can follow up What You Need. Your reaction to the news of Triple G parting ways with Abel Sanchez. Have you heard anything new since the original post on IG from Golovkin? Unmute your mic, Daniel. I don't think Daniel's there. I'll go to you, What You Need. Your reaction to the news of Triple G parting ways with Abel Sanchez.
I mean, I always thought that Abel Sanchez, I don't know if he was the major trainer. Probably he's the head trainer. But I do believe Triple G had people who were training him anyway. So I don't think for me, it's not a big deal. Abel Sanchez was sort of a PR guy for Triple G mostly, in my opinion. He used to train up in Big Bear and stuff like that. I think Triple G has kind of outgrown Abel, and now they're going to move to another level. And so he's using probably a trainer that's always been there training him, but just kind of elevated that trainer to a certain status, as to maybe he could have retained Abel, but then you'll have to pay him, So that's how I look at it. And, like Manny Pacquiao, Boo Boy trains Manny Pacquiao. It's not Freddie Roach,
I say more Manny trains himself, because I question the ability of Boo Boy, just because he's been there a long time. I don't know.
They speak. They both speak the same language. If you pay attention, the guy who gives the instructions to Manny Pacquiao, and has been for several fights, has been Boo Boy. Freddie Roach is just there to me, in my opinion, Freddie Roach is just there as a form of loyalty and a form of thanks to Freddie that Manny Pacquiao is doing that. The media keeps on saying Freddie changed Pacquiao's style. No, man, not at all. Pacquiao always had the ability and the style he had since we discovered him against what's his name? Forgot what the guy's name is on Showtime. You know, somebody was training Pacquiao before that, right?
Yeah, but again, I have to see more from Boo Boy than just that one fight to give him credibility. I just have to see more. I know Gus is not interested in this. I think Daniel he had to step away, so we'll move on into the doc. I'm seeing here in the chat. Punch for Pound. Again, thanks for joining us. He says that I hope GGG uses this in the roles mismatch as an opportunity to experiment in training camp with not training in with not training at high altitude anymore. I don't think it's good for someone at his age. He's asking for our thoughts on that. Your thoughts on that? What you need? Um, Thoughts on Triple G at this point of his career, training the altitude training. Your thoughts on that? And I want your opinion on that too, Gus. This may be not pertaining to the situation with Abel, but in terms of Triple G himself. Your thoughts
But
on him
Mike,
training at altitude?
but Mike, in very quickly before what you need, in terms of the decision now, somebody contacted me and I don't know whether it's a rumor or speculation, whatever, but they seem to suggest that it was Gennadi's wife who's become more involved in this whole negotiation and decision making process. And this person suggested that it was perhaps her decision to try and jettison the relationship between Gennady and Abel Sanchez. She's become a little bit more involved in the financial aspects of
Testing 1, 2, 3.
managing his career. So it sounds like that Shane Mosley and his wife situation. So as I said, I can sort of corroborate or whatever. It was just this person who has been following events. That's what he sort of alluded to me.
Okay. I don't know what you we need was able to hear you, Gus. I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
okay. It froze for a minute, I
Oh,
think.
okay. Go ahead. The question goes back to you. What you need? Uh, Give an answer to the question from Punch from Pound on the live show chat. Thoughts on Gennady Golovkin possibly changing things up and moving away from training in the altitude of Big Bear.
Right. Altitude training, from what I heard from what's his name? Um, the people who use snack, right? You
Oh,
don't
Victor Conte.
Victor Conte. There you go. Altitude training is kind of like something from yesteryear, kind of old school now. Actually, they do a lot of other things now. You can do a lot of other things besides altitude training. And you remember they have chambers and stuff where you can do it, where you have either high levels of oxygen. They can control the levels of oxygen in your training, so you don't have to do altitude training like that anymore. Even running, you don't have to do running anymore. There are other things now put in place to control your heart rate and that kind of stuff. So it depends on what you want to do. If you want to do old school stuff or what, I just wanted to add one thing though quickly. Uh, um, with respect to Gennady Golovkin changing trainers, I don't think it's a big thing. The guy, the gentleman was saying at that age, him changing trainers seems terrible. I don't think it's something where there's not a trainer that's been training Gennady and preparing him all along. I think that whoever that long-term trainer is there with him, and probably that's the one that's training him. Just like our Boo Boy, as I said before, has been there all along with Pacquiao. Just saying.
Indeed. Let's move on to, and we'll get more further developments on this breaking news in future episodes.
All right. I'm sorry, Mike. I'm here. I'm sorry. I had a
Okay,
phone
go
call.
ahead, Daniel. Your reaction to the news, late breaking news regarding Abel Sanchez and Gennady Golovkin, um, in the time that in the time span that Triple G released said what he said on IG in terms of now in our live recording. Have you heard any more news regarding why Triple G decided to part ways? I know Gus disclosed here he received some information that his wife is playing more of a role in his career, and that may have something to do with it. Your thoughts?
I've heard that. I've heard the wife's turned into it. It probably explains another reason why, because Abel pretty much let it out that said after he signed his own deal, he apparently went to Abel and told him he's going to get a pay cut. After signing the $100 million deal, mind you. And at some level, I kind of understand it when it comes to Golovkin. He's trying literally to make up for 2 to 3 years that he's lost of his career in Europe, waiting for a fight with Felix Sturm that never came. So he's still trying to make up for everything there once, and you could probably view it in the way that the 2 fights with Canelo, he didn't really execute the game plan really well when it came to what Abel wanted to do. But at the same time, it's a two-way street. Like, the trainer can only do so much; the fighter has to execute it, and it just didn't work. It just didn't work in the same way that it worked for other fighters because he was facing a different type of fighter in Canelo.
I would say 3 fights because the Danny Jacobs fight was close to.
Yeah, ever since then, when he started to facing real A-level, top-level middleweights, it started to show a little bit. And Golovkin has built his reputation just being like an offensive juggernaut, even though he is very, very well versed as far as an amateur background. So when you look into that, and you see that Abel's template tends to be more of just an offensive fighter, you can see how that slides into it now as far as who the new trainer is going to be. Golovkin is at the stage of his career where there's not much he can learn from a new person unless he's willing to stay for like at least 3 or 4 years still in the sport, and I don't think he wants to. But he has to pick somebody that's defensive. Like, technically, like I said, the guy I always fall back to is Joel Diaz. Because Joel Diaz will focus on your fundamental defense if he knows that the offense is already there and it's already been polished. He doesn't have to worry about that part. He has to worry about making sure that your defense gets into it. He may be like probably one of the only fighters that Virgil Hunter can work with, where he doesn't have to feel like an incomplete project because one side's already done. And Virgil can teach him a couple of things. But it's going to be interesting who he's going to pick. This could be another Pacquiao situation, like somebody mentioned, where Pacquiao pretty much is letting Boo Boy do his camp. And if Boo Boy's running his camp, Pacquiao's actually running this camp. Or in the last camp, it was really Donaire Sr. Somebody actually threw the suggestion out there. Why not let his twin brother Max be the trainer? They both went through the same amateur program. And technically, when you look at the history of the brothers, Max was the more highly regarded prospect. As far as being overall technician and being an offensive fighter, like the only reason that Max didn't go through with his career is because Gennady was born minutes before him, so he was the older brother. He got to pick his fate in that culture. It's gonna get ugly before it gets better because Abel though. Abel's gonna out some more laundry probably soon, but it hurts him a lot more than it hurts Gennady because Gennady was the leader of that Bear Bear camp.
Go ahead.
People like everybody that was in that camp knew they couldn't slouch off because Gennady was there, the ringleader. With no ringleader anymore, there's not much you can do. Particularly when Abel was pretty much out of the sport for a while until Gennady. So yeah, it's very weird, very interesting.
Shout out to Joe56984 for joining us in the live YouTube chat, and for those who join us in the live YouTube chat, who's watching us live on YouTube, please make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. He suggests that maybe Golovkin would work with someone like Anatoly Lomachenko, the father of Vasily Lomachenko. Let me throw that around to you guys. Your thoughts on Triple G working with Anatoly Lomachenko? Anyone?
No, he's not that sort of fighter, Mike.
Yeah.
And Anatoly and Yuri Tagashenko, they work a completely different methodology. They're with Vasily and Alexander, They work more with Yuri on the mental side. It's an old sort of Ukrainian fencing style. What they tend to do, certainly with their lead hands. If you look at Vasily and Alexander, they throw so many bait punches. They use a lot more lateral movement, etc. So they're not, although they're aggressive, they're fighters as opposed to boxers. They're definitely aggressive fighters, but their movements are completely different. The way they throw their lead punches, the way they throw their, you know, the way they counter punch as well, the way they fight inside the pocket. Fundamentally, it's very different to Golovkin, who's a stalker, um, a power puncher. But at this stage in his career, Mike, he doesn't really need a trainer at all. I think exceptional fighters are able to pretty much work autonomously. Roy Jones was exactly the same. He didn't need absolutely any trainer whatsoever. He was the guy running the corner. Usyk has always been the same. He pretty much has the strategy, what he's going to do in the fight. Ross Amber just devises a little tactics for him, but and he said it himself, he's pretty much the lead guy. He develops all of the strategy, etc. The guys, yeah, they just give him the water and look after his cuts, etc. Towel him down. Top elite fighters, they don't need anybody, and especially Gennady at this stages of his career, Mike.
Yeah.
This is a new ruthless
One more suggestion. Yeah, one more suggestion from Unrivaled Unrivaled Boxing Talk in the YouTube chat. He threw a name out there, James Ari Bashir.
Bashir might be interesting. It's just Gennady has to listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the main thing. Gennady's at this point of his career where he's not going to listen, and that's also a reason why Papa Lomachenko wouldn't work. Papa Lomachenko is used to his fighters being very, very in tune with his regiment, and like us mentioned, it's a completely different style to what Gennady has been doing for years, and he has to get a guy at this stage where he's willing to listen to. I don't. There's too many cultural differences in the sense of he's more in tune with his Russian side than Papa Lomachenko, because who's Ukrainian, and we kind of know the geopolitical situation with Russia and Ukraine. So that's one aspect, and then ultimately, yeah, it's a completely different style, and for a fact that Golovkin is probably going to want whoever trains him for him to be the top client. And with Papa Lomachenko, you're not the top client.
I see Bo from Truth and Facts About Sports has joined us. Thanks for joining the show, Bo. We're talking the breaking news regarding Gennady Golovkin, who decided to part ways with his trainer, Abel Sanchez, for his upcoming fight against Rolls. Your reaction to the news that this Golovkin has decided to split from one Abel Sanchez, who's not happy about it?
I think this was inevitable, Mike. The way that Abel Sanchez trains you is Abel Sanchez said something to Key a while back. I think we talked about it when he said when he was talking about a particular type of style of fighting, right? And that style of fighting that he was talking about, most of his fighters have either had trouble with it or have lost. So if you look at the writing on the wall, Gennady Golovkin, once he started fighting higher level competition, started having some struggles and started having some problems. I saw even in the Canelo fight, I didn't think Abel Sanchez gave him the proper advice for a Gennady Golovkin. So if you look at, and then too, somebody mentioned it, I think it might have been Daniel, because I came in at tail end, about Golovkin being with a trainer that he will listen to, or he will be his top client. Even with Abel Sanchez, Golovkin hadn't fought in a while. Joe Joyce just got rid of Abel Sanchez. So even, I mean, when you look at it, man, this was inevitable to happen. Golovkin is toward the twilight end of his career. So I'm not surprised by it, but I think like a guy like Abel Sanchez, who feels like, man, I took you from the time nobody wanted you into where you are right now and to get rid of me. I think to a guy like Abel Sanchez, there's a sense of betrayal there with him. I think to a guy like Abel Sanchez, there's a sense of uh I should get more of the benefit of the doubt. Now, I do believe that I don't care what fighter you are. I don't care how special you are, how special you believe you are. Every fighter needs a trainer in the corner. Why? Because I don't care who you are. It's always good to have a second set of eyes that may see something that you don't see to help you out in the fight. Floyd Mayweather was exceptionally special, but he always had to have somebody in that corner with him, either Roger or his father, him for them second set of eyes. Now, the question Daniel alluded to is whether you listen or not. And that's going to be key for a guy like Golovkin because he did struggle against Canelo Alvarez. I don't care what anybody says. He did struggle against Canelo. He did have a hard time against Daniel Jacobs. And if you listen to the advice that he was getting from Abel Sanchez, I don't know if that's something that was in a Canelo fight. No, he there's nothing he was telling was helping him. So at this point in his career, I don't think Golovkin can go at it alone, but he's definitely going to need somebody, A, that can be the sole person for him, and B, be able to help him in these next couple fights coming up because he's looking to cash out, which is a final fight with Canelo. And if that's what you're looking at, then you got to try to find out, well, who can help me? Now, me personally, from watching Golovkin fight, I still feel that at this point in his career, he is limited to his ceiling. His ceiling has reached the limit now. So he's limited to his ceiling. So he's going to have to find somebody that can help him with that, move that ceiling up, or help him get some kind of way to figure out how to get more advanced. But I'm not shocked by this Mike at all, period. I think the writing was on the wall in my opinion.
When we talk ceiling here, let's qualify it, Bo. Ceiling in terms of his physical ability, yeah. In terms of his market and earning potential, that's another matter.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he signed a deal with DAZN.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a separation here in terms of his ability, physical ability, yeah. But the reason he moved on to DAZN and whatever, because he still feels there's some earning potential, not just within the last few years of his career, but after his career is over with.
Oh, well, there's always going to be some earn. Listen, Golovkin is a guy that, regardless of Golovkin is a likable guy that's always going to be sellable, and that's just. I mean, he's a guy that he's a likable guy. He did have a boxing style that was, a lot of the especially the casual fans liked it. Okay, and he is sellable. He has that smile, the personality, cool person. And that's always going to be sellable. And his name, regardless of how you feel about the level of competition, Golovkin managed to build something with his name that will always be sellable. So from a physical standpoint, he has reached a certain ceiling that's it. He's maxed out. So you're not going to get nothing more out of it. But is what we see going to be enough for him to make one final push and at winning a title or even being competitive in this division? Because I personally, I don't see him fighting a Demetrius Andrade, and I don't see him fighting a Charlo. The only fight that I see him looking for is Canelo. The DAZN has invested in him. They're not going to put him in there with a fight that potentially either make him devalue him by making him not look bad, and then B, possibly maybe even losing. I see Gail that came in.
Yeah, I see Gail. Thank you again, Bo. Truth and Facts About Sport as well. My brethren over at threekingsboxing.com. Get a quick word from you, Gail, in terms of your reaction to Triple G deciding to part ways with Abel Sanchez. A quick word from you before we get to the
Hold
docket.
on, Mike. I thought it was fellas love boxing today.
It is. I feel like I feel like I'm spying on the locker room or something here. Damn, what a lineup tonight. Boy, you listeners are lucky. All the stars, all the knowledgeable panelists, the tip top of the top are here tonight. And just in time, because I was thinking before the show, gee, what are we going to talk about today?
Thank you, Gail, very much. Now you have to say something nice about everybody else on the panel.
Right. That's why I love this. So, from a strictly athletic perspective, performance perspective, I think this was a good move. If Golovkin feels he's getting a little stale, a little stagnant, isn't feeling the brain cells fire when he's training, it's a good idea to change trainers. From what I'm reading, this had as much to do, though, with the business relationship between he and Sanchez, and that's a shame. If that's what really precipitated this deep down at the heart of things, I feel as a fan and as somebody who's watched them succeed all these years, very disappointed by this kind of breakup. It's, you know, like seeing two of your friends announcing they're getting divorced, and you're going to be tempted to pick sides, but we don't need to do that. What will be interesting is to see where Golovkin goes. And I've got my theories, and I see other people have their theories as well, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. I hope in time both sides will cool down. Well, Sanchez is the side that's pretty hot about things right now, and realize that maybe it was one of those relationships that was meant to have an ending at this point. And Sanchez, whether he's been treated fairly or not by Golovkin making this decision, Golovkin completely resurrected his training career. He was out of the business, virtually out, when Golovkin went to him. And he's done very, very well as a result. He still has a very impressive stable up there in Big Bear with some prospects who I'm sure will be very happy to get a little more of his attention without Golovkin taking a lot of the high altitude air out of that gym up there. You know, Joe Joyce, Murat Gassiev. You know, this is just all good for all those guys, and particularly the youngsters. I'm sure they'll miss Golovkin's influence up at the gym, which was substantial. They all looked up to him. He was the leader. He taught them how to work hard, good work ethic, good practices. But life moves on, folks.
Indeed. Let's move on to the docket. Um, Starting off at MSG, going to focus on that card, headlined by Terence Crawford fighting Amir Khan. Crawford technically stopped Khan via 6-round KO, knocked him down in round 1. Had his way pretty much throughout. I'm going back to you both to talk about this, about Khan's stoppage, or Crawford's stoppage, or Khan's quitting, depending on your perspective. Um, your thoughts on the fight, your thoughts on what Khan did in the end, the reaction to the low blow. And look, inevitably, people are going to look at this fight and compare it to Loma on the one hand from a pound for pound perspective, and Errol Spence on the other hand, given that he's the other prominent welterweight out there. People want to see Crawford and Spence fight. So your reaction to what you saw Saturday night at MSG?
Mike, you know, this was, from the moment this fight got announced, I remember thinking to myself, okay, I thought it was, I'm just like, hey, this is a stay busy fight, because there's no way you can sell, in my honest opinion, at this point, Amir Khan as a creditable threat. And especially given the last fight with Sammy Vargas. Sammy Vargas dropped him. A D-level fighter, Sammy Vargas dropped him. Okay. And then there's something to be said about the fighter's mentality. And I say this every single time when I see it. When I see fighters and they are on TV and they're talking and they say, yes, you know, I went back and, you know, I just really had a moment with myself, and I had to change the way I think, and I had to change the way I do things, and I had to, you know, pretty much change my life. And when I hear fighters talk like that,
signs that they're quitting, signs that they're not invested anymore, signs that they're on decline.
That when I hear fighters talk like that, Mike, that I automatically say he about to get his ass whooped, because whatever it was that made you hungry, when you start changing your mental state of mind, I saw with a lot of fighters, you change what made you hungry from that mental standpoint. You change what made you run that extra 5 miles instead of just that extra 1. When fighters start changing themselves mentally as competitors, you change yourself, you change your mindset. You are no longer who you was that got you where you wanted to be. When you start having that mental search in your mind, then you start thinking about things that you probably normally wouldn't think of when you was in the ring fighting. Like, do I want to go back out there? I do have a family. You know, what about my son? And you start thinking stuff like that, and it no longer makes you hungry the same, right? But Khan really is I've always said this. He's been Khan has talked an elite at he's been able to talk at elite level status. But if you pretty much look at Khan's career as 147 pounds, it was major underachieving. The man never won a major title 147. This actually was his first title fight at 147 pounds. So for me, what he did, I have to say, yeah, for me, being a former fighter, being a competitor, the only reason why I feel he quit was because I watched Khan when he fought Danny Garcia. When that referee stopped that fight, how adamant and upset Khan was that the ref stopped the fight because he felt I can still go. In this fight right here, he had 5 minutes. Whether you want to say it was low or not, Amir Khan had 5 minutes. He didn't take one of the 5 minutes. And then he was okay with whatever decision came away out of the corner. He wasn't upset. He wasn't mad. He just walked over. Okay, boom. I actually heard Amir Khan say, I can't go no more. I can't go no more. He, from the moment he got hurt in round 1, he was on unsteady legs and he gave it a go. And he was just, I can't do this no more. I'm 35 years old. I've been taking these beatings. I can't do this anymore. And I really felt like when an opportunity struck, Khan just was like, all right, good. This is it. I'm done. I'm out. And that's why I just really feel like, to a certain degree, yeah, man, you quit because you didn't do any other things. You get hit low. And then he tries saying, well, I didn't know you had 5 minutes. How do you not know? A veteran fighter like you don't know you got 5 minutes to recover. A veteran fighter like you don't know you have 5 minutes. I wasn't buying none of it, Mike. Now, but, Crawford did what Crawford was supposed to do. I always say that, listen, when the guy's in the ring, you think he don't belong in it with you, run him over, and I've always said that. I think also when you look at that fight, Khan hand speed wasn't a big factor because I think he's lost some of that. His hand speed wasn't what it probably used to be or should have been. Now, as far as the pound for pound list, that's always going to be subjective. But listen, Terence Crawford is number 1 on my list. And then as far as Errol Spence goes, that's a fight that everybody wants to see. And that fight will happen when it's time, when everything has ran its course in its time. That's a fight that'll happen. My only fear is, I think if Crawford is fighting, because there's mention of that maybe he might fight Kell Brook next if they don't get Spence. If Crawford iron sharpens iron, if Crawford keep fighting these type of fights and Earl is fighting Sean Porters and the Keith Thurmans, I just don't want Crawford to, I guess, sort of like, even though he's being active, but I just don't want him to lose some of what he does because he's not fighting guys at a high caliber to push him. So I don't want him to lose that. And that's my biggest fear. A lot of times guys, they'll fight these level fighters and they'll get lulled into something. Then when it comes time to fight at that high level again, it'll be harder for them to get up. But Terence is he's just, well, he's one of those dudes that just, outside of being mentally tough, outside of him just being a dog, he's a dog, period. He wants to prove everything to everybody. You could be 200 pounds and you talk smack, Terence gonna come see you. So, but this fight, in my honest opinion, Mike, it was never a viable sell to me from the start because I just never really believed that much in Amir Khan, given his past performances and given what I just saw when he fought Sammy Vargas.
I'll go to you, Gail, and then you can follow up Daniel and what you need, your reaction to Crawford's win over Amir Khan last weekend.
It went somewhat unexpected in the way it ended, but the outcome was so little in doubt. I mean, Khan had perhaps not even the puncher's chance. We give a lot of underdogs. Frequently, though, you get past the halfway point in a fight, you're getting your butt kicked, it's not looking great, and you don't want to go out with your back flat on the canvas, and Khan knows that feeling all too well after having performed fairly well in some fights. You don't want that to happen, but it's just looking ugly. And this incident comes along. It provides him cover. Virgil Hunter knows how to provide a fighter cover and say, I ended the fight. A lot of trainers have that unspoken agreement with guys. Yeah, you get in the deep water, you need to quit. There's no point to taking any more of a beating than you already are. But you don't have to take the heat for quitting on the stool. Hunter bails him out, stops the fight, happens all the time. And, that's the trainer's job. That guy in the ring has only two friends, and sometimes not even two. Sometimes it's one. You hope the trainer is looking out for their best interests. And I believe that Virgil is one of those trainers and sees this guy getting just beat to shit and saying, this is unnecessary. This is just not going to happen. And after having his legs taken out from him a little bit by that low blow, yes, he should have gone. If he had really wanted to provide himself full cover, he should have taken every second of that 5 minutes. But, maybe he was in pain. Maybe he was just so damn demoralized that the clear thinking that says to him, okay, well, I've got 5 minutes. Well, let me just bring every second of this 5 minutes out versus hell, I am done. And so the trainer is there, and we've seen other times trainers save guys from themselves who did want to continue after a beating. The only other guy that's in your, on your side there in that ring is the referee. And that's all you've got, looking out for your best interests. So disappointing, I'm sure, to the fans. Honestly, the older I get, the more I make peace with guys stepping out of the ring when they're just getting a beat down like this. They got a lot of years to live long after they retire. And you just ask yourself, if he stayed in, really, what's the necessity of that? Other than our momentary entertainment, the chances of him staging a comeback were slim to none.
Daniel, what you need, your thoughts?
The result was never going to be in question. We all knew Bud was going to beat the living crap out of Khan. The ending, though, yeah, it's a bit weird. And I actually started thinking about it as Gil was talking about it. There's similar parallel. If remember when we talk about parallels between him, between Bud and Loma, I think about the fight between Loma and Nicholas Walters, where we have to remember that it's almost to the round that is going into it. We have a situation where a guy just flat out quits. And it's almost a similar situation into this. The guy flat out quits. And that is a pretty similar situation, although we have to admit it's a low blow, and then Virgil kind of saved them. The result was never in question. Like, Khan has done enough in his career where we have to know that he can't do it anymore. So in the end, like I said, it's not the result that I expected, but it's the outcome that I expected to at the same time.
Oh shoot, sorry, I was on mute. What you need, your reaction?
Khan was taking a beating. He was going to get stopped. He got bailed out.
That's simple, huh?
I like a man who gets to the point.
Well, we've talked, as Bo alluded to this, there are a lot of folks in the aftermath that are clamoring for a bout between one Bud Crawford and one Errol Spence, current IBF welterweight champion. Going to get a bit controversial here, wanting to folks who listen to us live and who will be listening to us later on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever. In regards to that, a lot of talk from one Bob Arum, who, within the midst of his commentary after the fight, he claims that one Al Heyman will discourage Errol Spence from a fight deal with a quote unquote white promoter. Now, I think that what Arum said is ridiculous based on the past in terms of Heyman working with Arum in other fights in the past. I just think he's factually wrong. I don't know why this has not received as much coverage in mainstream boxing media circles or mainstream sports circles for that matter. But his charge is inflammatory. It's nonsensical, and it's ridiculous in my opinion. Uh, Before we move on to other fights, I want to touch on what Arum says. And I'm just going to open the floor for anybody who wants to respond, who has a response to what Arum says and who wants to tackle this. The floor is yours.
Gail, ladies first.
Really? Nobody? Really? Nobody? Listen, folks. That kind of controversy sells fights. Nobody is better right now in the game at selling a fight at 86 years old than Bob Arum. Does he give a shit that he's ticked off a certain segment of the population? He really doesn't. If there's money to be made, a fight to be made. But the truth is, the promoters work for the fighters, not the other way around. The fighters, if guys of Crawford and Spence's stature really want to make it happen, it will happen. I believe it will happen. I don't believe it'll happen next or tomorrow or by the end of the year, and it doesn't really need to. The fans would like it to, but there are plenty of other folks for both of them to mess around with in the welterweight division until it's the last two men left standing at the top of the hill to potentially make it a true unification fight in the division. That is a hell of a fight, and that's worth waiting for.
I hear you, and again, anybody wants to respond, but did he have to go there?
I'll take the opportunity and respond. I think Bob Arum is a old school guy doing old school rules, whereas new school stuff now. And he's kind of being, as you said, ridiculous and irrelevant now. You know, the whole purpose behind it. I mean, he keeps on putting down unnecessarily. I think he puts down people unnecessary to try and raise up his fighters, and he talks a lot of rubbish, in my opinion. And I'm kind of tired of him, actually. I think Todd DeBuff does a great job with Top Rank, and I think maybe Bob Arum should do like Jim Lampley and Company Limited and just retire, man. You know, a lot of people praise him. He's a Hall of Fame kind of guy, whoopee ding. But I think he's getting more and more annoying to me, you know, because I'm really interested in boxing, not so much in shit talking. And I know he's shit talking, but people take him seriously. And because of the machine, HBO, ESPN that he has working with him that reiterates his point of view, people literally take it seriously. Like, people really feel the only fight that is necessary right now is Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford. No. You're telling me Keith Thurman's not better than, is not in that picture?
Yeah, we will talk about Thurman a little bit later.
Errol Spence versus Keith Thurman, right? We have Manny freaking Pacquiao, okay? A legend. So Errol Spence, if Errol Spence gets a fight with Pacquiao, he should, no, forget Pacquiao, go face Terence Crawford. I mean, come on now, right? We have Sean Porter as well. So, I mean, this is something where the top tier guys need to face each other, and there's no one direct tunnel vision option out there. And Bob Arum makes it sound, because his fighter is outside of the PBC, he makes it sound as if his fighter must get this fight with Errol Spence, and the fans must demand it. And that's not the case. I mean, but when you tell me he tried to put out all the other fighters who are top tier, you know, to say that Terence is the only guy. Come on, man. We smart enough to understand what's going on.
Well, we are smart enough, thank God, and thank goodness all those fans out there have the pound for pound boxing report to listen to get the straight story and the reality of things. But I want to add one more thing. I do find this very entertaining. The fact that an 86-year-old man saying, yeah, we could just wait on that fight. Bob thinks he's still going to be around in a year, 2 years more at 86. Have to admire that old guy's optimism. I mean, a lot of people age 86 aren't buying unripe bananas. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Well,
Daniel Bo, your thoughts on this?
well, I'm not surprised by it. Like we talked a little bit about it before, like I said before the show started. I get where a level gets into what Bob is trying to do because Al Heyman has built his reputation in many ways on seeing himself as the person that black fighters can go to where they can make money and make a good living. And given Al Heyman's history prior, like I said, prior to even when he started his music business, he was very active, like I think in the pro black community. Like there's a lot of interviews, I think in the 70s and 80s when they're restarting to figure out that shows he does have a very, very pro black stance. So you take that into account. You take into account that, granted, this is just an athletics in general. Overwhelming amount of the PBC roster, overwhelming amount of the PBC champions are black. And then you suddenly have to paint a picture where, oh, it has to work in a different way because one of my top fighters is a white Russian guy, and the only black champion I have is in a division that I can't control. The problem with it though is, if you want to believe that, okay, yeah, that Al Heyman doesn't work well with white fighters, white promoters, then you have to talk to Caleb Plant, who's a champion underneath in his banner. You have to talk to some of the prospects that he has that are pretty good. You have to talk to Lou DiBella, who's pretty much his go-to sham promoter. You have to talk to Stevenson,
and Hearn,
and Hearn, and Eddie Hearn in a way. But that's the main thing. This is just Bob talking smack because he realizes he's not in a situation where he can give Bud the best fights without giving away some level of control to Heyman. And that is something that Bob absolutely detests. Like he does only work with Heyman when it's absolutely necessary. And
I just want to piggyback off of you. Leo Santa Cruz is not a black fighter.
He's not. That's what I mean. But
Omar Figueroa.
Thank you.
Lucas Matisse.
But Matisse, that was an interesting
Marcos
situation.
Maidana.
Maidana I can give you.
Matisse.
Yeah.
Robert Guerrero.
Yeah.
Luis Palazzo. Need I go on?
Yeah. Well, no. The Matisse, that's a different situation.
Mares.
Yeah.
I could go on forever.
Yeah. That's the main thing. Like his main thing is like, oh, white fighters. So like I said it, Caleb Plant. Best example. Or better yet, if Al Heyman never really worked with white fighters, you would have never gotten Wilder Fury. So we can stop it on that.
As well.
Yeah.
Berterbiev, yeah. There's too many examples out there, but I get what Bob is trying to do. Like I said, because he's in a situation where he can't control. He's not in the control of a division. Like he can't give Bud the best matchups right now, unless he's willing to work with Al Heyman. And ESPN has already shown they're not going to be the ones to stop the fight. So it's up to him. And yeah, he's 86. He's a stubborn old man. So I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Bob Arum's keeping that fight from happening. And Bob Arum was the one responsible for Tyson Fury not facing Deontay Wilder in the rematch.
And I hear what you're saying about the background of Heyman. I'll go to you, Bo, and Gus, if you want to give further word, please do. I hear what you're saying about Heyman's background, but let me just say this for the record, and you can pick it up from here, Bo. Being pro-black does not mean you're anti-white. Let me just say that for the record. Your response, Bo.
I guess I have to be the angry black guy on the panel. All right, listen, man.
He hired a lot of white fighters, though. You can't say anyway.
Yeah, okay. Listen, man. Here's the thing. I'm not upset at what Bob Arum said. Bob Arum has been saying wild, ludicrous, crazy things for a very, very long time of his career. Remember, he made that comment about MMA fighters being nothing but racist skinheads that feel on each other. And he said, so he's made some outrageous comments. Okay. My issue is the double standard when it comes to the fans and certain part of the media, because I remember when Isaac Dogbay's father made a comment that he made, and Bob and his followers specifically would always say, had said, you shouldn't bring race into boxing. When I would even say, hey man, sometimes as a black fighter, you do have to do more. And people say, well, you shouldn't bring race into boxing. And they would be adamant about it. Well, why aren't those same people adamant about this? Because him saying, he didn't say he's going to tell him not to work with me. He told him he's going to do the brother thing and not let him work with a white guy. Okay. So fans and other boxing entities should at the very least point out, come on, Bob, you reaching out there, you come on, man. And you just had this happen to you. So that's my disappointment, is in some of the fans who are actually out there saying, yeah, he's right. Heyman's going to do that. I mean, look at this and look at that, and they're going to go with the examples that and exclude the ones that all of the ones that we just named, right? Because like Gail said, we know. and that's part of the problem with me is we live in an era. Back in the day, Bob could have said that, everybody would laugh, oh, you know better. But we live in an era now where you have these fanboys that will run with that like that's the gospel. And that's the issue with me, is that kind of talk and that kind of rhetoric is being picked up by some of these casuals and being ran with like it's the gospel. I mean, I saw memes and everything after that like that. And I laughed at it, but I'm looking at it like, wow, really, y'all really gonna run with that? So Bob saying what Bob's saying is alluded to what Daniel said, is he realized he is limited. But let me just say this: number one, I have no sympathy for no promoter, because all of them, going back to Don King, all of them have made some decisions that I've never liked. I don't trust all of them. I don't like all of them, okay, because they have done some dirty, sneaky, underhanded things in boxing. I don't care what they are, but I don't particularly, in this instant, I don't really have sympathy for Bob, because you just denied us a rematch with Wilder versus Fury. So you can't deny us that rematch, then turn around and say, hey, this guy's going to tell us guys not to work with white guys. Come on, you can't do that and then expect me to, be like, all right, bet. But as far as I'm saying it, I was never upset when he said it, because like I said, Bob has said things for a very long time. And I mean, deep down inside, I don't think Bob meant it to be that way, because he has to make it appear like I'm trying to make the fight, because Heyman is the one dude that you can say something about and you will never hear shit back from him, because he doesn't talk. He's the one dude that you can talk about. You're not gonna hear nothing back. You don't talk to nobody. They even said it on ESPN after the fight. One of the guys said, yeah, it is frustrating because you don't hear nothing from Heyman. And Bob knows that. And Bob knows when he get Heyman on the phone, he can, he can say whatever it is he wants to say. My issue again is with the fans and certain media outlets that once upon a time would condemn you would say to you when you would say, hey, a black fighter got to do more. Or even the one that jumped on Deontay Wilder for saying my people, and then him and Radio Raheem got into it. They jumped on Deontay Wilder saying, why you got to bring race in it? You don't know all that, blah, blah, all this. Well, where are they now in this situation? I mean, at the very least, show me some smoke. I ain't got to see the fire. Just show me the fucking smoke. And I don't see that. So, but I mean, it is what it is, Mike. We can't get mad about and angry about stuff like this. As long as the people who I respect, understand, and know, sometimes this is going to have to be good enough for us.
Well, I get angry. I interject. I get angry about these things because you have a responsibility in some respects to not cross a line on certain things. You're trying to make a fight with Al Heyman, right? Supposedly. Then why are you throwing smoke at Al Heyman? You don't really want that fight then. Because the way people really negotiate things is behind the scenes. It takes 2 years, sometimes 1 year, whatever, right? They negotiate things behind the scene. I remember Mayweather Pacquiao. Heyman came out and said, Barbarian came out and said some wacky shit. And Todd DeBuff was like, what's wrong with this old guy? You know what I'm saying? And it's like he was trying not to have the fight happen then. And for me, in my opinion, he just trying to do this for Terence Crawford to feel that he going to make a fight with Errol Spence, kind of like what he did with Pacquiao. And so he's trying to say, well, I'm trying to do something here. But at the same time, He's down in Al Heyman, which doesn't make no sense to me. You know what I'm saying? If you were to make a fight, you really trying to make a fight, you're not gonna do that. You're gonna keep quiet. Nobody's gonna hear nothing, and you're all plotting and planning your stuff in the background. That's all I'm saying. I know they're trying to hide the fight, but that fight inevitably is gonna happen, and especially if these guys keep on winning against top tier competition. That's all I'm saying.
But see, here's what you have to look at. Two things. What you need. It's up to us whether it's up to us to get that out there, which is what we're doing right now, right? So that's up to us to get that out. That's number one. But number two, at the end of the day, Bob has been doing this and have still been able to get the fights at the end when he wants it. So behind the scenes, whether it's behind the scenes or in front, when it comes time to make that fight, all of this is going to be forgotten when it comes time to make that fight because of the amount of money the fight's going to make.
Or he gets the fight he don't want to happen, not happen. Do remember that too. I can call fights if you want me to.
Yeah, Gambo and Wama. That was a fight that should have happened that didn't happen.
Right. Let's move on to some other fights because the first two topics, the breaking news as well as discussion, his fight has been rather lengthy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to split fights up between each individual. I'm going to you, Gail, to talk about Teofimo Lopez. Been talking a whole lot. Young, precocious, but very talented 21-year-old lightweight. Has been talking a whole lot about how good he is. Been talking a whole lot about Loma. He fought on the undercard of Crawford, and Amir Khan fought fighter by the name of Tatli. I believe he stopped him with a body shot. Thoughts on the fight, and what direction do you think he will go? Do you think he will insist on calling out Loma, or do you think he'll go another route? I personally think he should try a shot at Come. If Come wants to fight him, hopefully win that WBC belt, then try to aim for Loma. Your thoughts?
Well, Lopez is brash. As we've said on the show many times, you can talk all the shit you want, and it really doesn't end up being shit talking if you can back it up. And so far, he's been able to back it up. This opponent was untested. All his fights have been in that hotbed of boxing, Finland, his entire career. Yes, he is the current reigning champion on the Finland version of Dancing with the Stars. True story. And I'll give it to him. He's done much better than any other professional boxer on any edition of that show around the world, including Floyd Mayweather, Sugar Ray Leonard, and Victor Ortiz, who've all been on the show, and Layla Ali, who didn't win, but he won. But he can go back, console himself with his Dancing with the Stars mirror ball trophy because this was inevitable. He was not up to the task. I don't care what kind of experience, rounds in the ring, it just simply wasn't at the level of quality American professional boxing, and he found that out quick. So where does Lopez go? Well, when you blast onto the scene like he has and mow guys down like he has, a lot of people go running for the hills because he's still not well known enough to draw big enough purses to balance that old risk versus reward ratio. So this is rough for him. So, I understand why he's calling out Lomachenko. I think Lomachenko's reaction has been pitch perfect, which is pretty much, who the hell is this kid? Who's this whippersnapper kind of thing? And seems kind of amused by it. And that's how he's playing it for now. That will buy the time necessary for Lopez to test himself a little more. Come would be a terrific opponent for him if that fight can be made. I understand Come is about ready to come back. His hand injury is healed, but he's certainly not going to fight Lopez in his first outing. And we have to see what's going to happen with Crawford and everybody else Come's mandatory. Who is his current mandatory? Is it Loma? It's Loma. Does he fight Loma? I don't know. So there's some interesting mixing and matching going on there. Now, what will also be interesting is can he drop a division? Can he go up a division? Is there some playing around with where he lands? he is only 21 years old, and a lot of times those guys can, at that age, can be a bit flexible about where they go. Any fight for him right now that gets him back in front of the public is a good fight. Any fight. He can draw an audience and make a name, getting these flashy quick knockouts. He claims he wants a fight in July. So when he's not staying in the ring very long, there's really no reason he can't have fights 10 weeks apart when you're that young and mowing guys down left and right. I do think right now, realistically, the best fight out there for him is probably Comey. But Comey may have some other ideas about that. It would be smart for Lopez to get his hands on a belt. That then makes him, and I don't mean one of the Cracker Jack super part-time mustard belts or whatever they're handing out these days. It has to be one of the real 4 belts. Once he's got that, his options will open up quite a bit more.
I mean,
I'll go to you. Go ahead.
Yeah, Richard Comey should not even entertain the idea of fighting Teofimo Lopez. Richard Comey is a world champion. He's paid his dues. He's fought on the road. He's fought genuine world-class operators. Teofimo Lopez has fought absolutely fucking no one. He deserves no world title shot. He's just fought guys there just to, make him put on a show, put on an exhibition, have a high real knockout. That's his selling. That's his gimmick. He's a welterweight masquerading as a lightweight. I mean, look at his physical stature. He's 5'8". He's a huge lightweight, Mike. He's going to be moving up the weights. He's eventually going to be at, welterweight soon. So, people need to really pump the brakes on this kid.
I go to you regarding this next fight. Both Shakur Stevenson fought on this Crawford card as well. He fought Christopher Diaz. Diaz fought for the vacant junior lightweight title, WBO version, losing to Ito. And Stevenson was he looked good. He won by 10-round decision, but this is the same Stevenson who's also talking up world title shot. And that's how I viewed this fight. I felt Diaz may give him some problems. I thought Stevenson could be in trouble given the issues outside the ring with him. But I learned quickly in watching this fight live that, Stevenson going to have his way with him. So my focus became, given the talk of him vying for a world title, I'm saying to myself, Bo, as good as he's looking here, I would make him vulnerable. I would make him underdog against any of the world champions at featherweight, be it Gary Russell Jr., be it Leo Santa Cruz, be it Josh Warrington. And I'm just saying, I'm going to say it right here. They better keep Stevenson away from Josh Warrington. He don't want none of that smoke. I don't even know I would make him the favorite over Oscar Valdez, as vulnerable as he is. Am I being a little bit too harsh on the kid, Bo?
No, you're not being a little bit too harsh because that's your personal opinion, how you feel based off what you see. I'm of the mindset because Timothy Sadly,
AKA,
referred to him, man, has made the comment, this guy could beat anybody 126 right now. All the world champ beat them all right now. Like, okay. I'm just looking at that like, so
he talked that big then, but Cal talked to Stephen A. Smith. Never mind, move on.
Yeah. But the thing is, I was highly impressed with what I saw from Stevenson because I thought Christopher Diaz was a dangerous fight for him. I thought Christopher Diaz was going to be a fight where, probably there was an element of danger there. Diaz was just after losing to Matsuda Ito, he had a fight that he won by knockout, so he's coming off of a knockout. He's a former world title contender, but it also have to ask yourself, because a lot of people will say this, well, sometimes I can't learn that from a quick knockout. I think when Diaz came back, it was a pretty quick knockout, so I can't learn much from a quick knockout. So I don't know how much of that Masa Ito fight took out of him, and he went back down, but to see Stevenson make the adjustments that he made, to see Stevenson kind of realized what he was doing, and to a certain degree, kind of have his way with Diaz was shocking to me. He showed me another level of his game, which is what I was hoping to see in this fight, and I saw it. The only thing I didn't like was people was booing at the end because he didn't get a knockout, and that always bothers me. It's like I really wish people would learn the sport of boxing, because if you learn the sport of boxing, you wouldn't boo a performance that we just saw. But to any event, what I saw from Shakur Stevens does tell me, okay, he's ready to take that next step. So he's ready to go from prospect to contender now. He's not ready to go straight to a title. I agree with you with that. And I don't even think he beats Oscar Valdez, because the reality is you still have to get in that ring with someone that, okay, you made the adjustment, but now they'll make an adjustment back. Now let's see what you do when you face somebody that can make an adjustment back. Or let's see what you do when you can face somebody like a Gary Russell with the same hand speed, better footwork, better reflexes. So, you have to build to that. What I saw last night was showing me, okay, one of the hurdles have been passed. You fought a former world title contender in Christopher Diaz. Now the next step. Now you're no longer a contender you're no longer a prospect. Now I have to look at you as a contender. So you have to go out now, fight a top 5 guy at 126 pounds, or now fight a former world champion at 126 pounds. Okay. Those are things that you have to do. Is he ready for it? I believe he's ready for it. I just don't think he beats any of the world champions right now. But what I saw from him tells me the boy is getting it, and he's starting to grow into his own, and he's starting to realize, hey, if I'm going to fight at that level, I have to raise my level of game when I'm put in the position that he was in against Diaz.
And I'll go to you for this final fight, Daniel. When I was having the ladies show last week, we previewed Danny Garcia, Adrian Granados fight took place at the I'm still calling it StubHub in Carson. Garcia stopped Granados in 7. When I was talking to the previewing the fight with the ladies, I felt that Garcia had a real chance to do this. I just thought that, knowing what was on the line, coming off of the loss to Porter for the BC belt last year, not only was he hungry and motivated, but he had the right guy in there with him in Granados, and it proved just the case. He put him down twice in the second, put him down again in the 5th, and eventually stopped him in the 7th. Too big and strong and powerful, and too quick for the likes of Adrian Granados, who's really a 140 pounder. Garcia talked Pacquiao after the fights. Your reaction to it? I know a lot of people are going to give a lot of hype about Garcia over this win, but for those who do that, are they in danger of giving Garcia too much credit here, given who Granados is at this stage of his career?
Yeah, they are. To put it bluntly, yeah, they are, because Granados is just the latest version of like what you can think about Josecito Lopez, and like a guy who is probably much better at a lighter weight division, which in Granados' case is 140. He just happened to get a fight against a top level guy at a weight class he really didn't belong in, and did good enough where he decided to stay. And that's what happened with Josecito Lopez. Like when he broke Victor Ortiz's jaw, he figured, I could do things at welterweight. He learned the lesson right away after that fight made him go in the ring against Canelo, but he stayed at welterweight, and like I said, his career hasn't fared that well. And Granados it's in the same path where his best weight class is 140. So when you're fighting somebody that's naturally bigger, is now more of a natural welterweight than Danny Garcia, I'm not surprised at all that this is the result going to happen into it. Now, for Garcia's fans, this is great because he has been criticized for not trying to get a knockout of fights. Every single fight's going to decision and making it close. So I'm not surprised that people are hyped up about that. The problem is going to be, though, when he faces top-level welterweights, whether it is a Thurman, whether it is a Porter, he doesn't seem to have the same pop that he has against those guys. So he can talk about Pacquiao He could talk about Porter, he could talk about Thurman, Spence all he wants. But there's enough evidence to prove that when you fight real big welterweights or actual welterweights, you run into trouble.
Not just big welterweights, but welterweights who can move.
Yeah.
The weakness is still there with Garcia.
Yeah.
He doesn't move.
Well, that's the thing with Garcia. Garcia's the ultimate basic fighter in the sense that he does everything good. He doesn't do one thing well. And when you have a fighter like that does everything good but not one thing well, a fighter that does one thing well is going to bother him. Doesn't matter what that one thing well does. It's going to bother him. He needs another fighter that does everything good, not something well, that will make him shine out a little bit more. So that's a very telling area, but good on the victory. We don't know what he's going to get in this next fight because, like I said, we'll talk about in the news. There's possibilities that both Pacquiao and Thurman are going to be preoccupied, and Porter might be looking at another formula. So if Bob Arum wants to shut us up, or if Al Heyman wants us to shut us up, that's an opening for Bud. That's a credible fight for Bud.
Let's move on to some news here. Began the show with breaking news, more breaking news, even stuff I didn't put in the docket here. Shout out to my brethren over at Three Kings Boxing. They're getting ready to report this right now. It looks like, and Daniel, you mentioned it in the chat as well. It looks like Marcos Maidana has decided to end his comeback. He has stopped training in Vegas. He's going to return to Argentina. In spite of signing a 3-year deal with PBC earlier this year, would have paid him, I think, $1.5 million for a summer bout at 160 pounds. He supposedly lost his hunger. I'm looking at this and like, I'm not surprised one bit. As I've said privately, watching video of him working out, I'm working out harder than this dude. So motivation, I really didn't see it. The commitment to serious hard training, if it looks like I'm working out harder than he is, what does it say about him? Your reaction to Maidana ending his quote-unquote comeback for anyone?
Mike, no one works harder than you. You're Mr. Beachbody, man.
Right. That's not throwing shade at Maidana. He'd have a hard time keeping up with you these days, Michael. You know what? I don't think the hunger left him. I think the problem was the hunger didn't leave him and he couldn't get down the weight. There's no way in hell he was going to make 160. Not a chance. And, you let a few years go by, you live the good life like he has been, suddenly, busting your ass to train for a fight isn't all that attractive anymore. And as the years creep on, I'm here to tell you, boys and ladies listening, it gets harder and harder to peel it off. So, I think maybe it sounded like a good idea, but the beauty of this is Maidana is one of those few guys in the sport smart enough to hold on to it, make some good money, hold on to it, apparently invest it well. He didn't need to fight for the money. That is a good thing, because when he decided he wasn't really motivated and he couldn't work that hard, it just wasn't for him, he didn't have to force himself forward. He can quit. He can go back to his rancho in Argentina, put a steak on the grill, light a cigar, and life is good. But
Go ahead.
Fight. We have been cheated out of a stunning matchup with an available opponent. Of course, I'm not allowed to say his name on this show. I'm going to just end it there.
I'll go to you.
Gail, it's okay. You can mention your boyfriend's name. We won't get upset.
Well, that fight between Maidana and Chavez Jr. would have to take place at cruiserweight. That's just all I'm saying.
I want you a quick word on this, Bo. You talked about hunger. and motivation in your breakdown of Khan's loss to Bud Crawford. Being a former fighter yourself, you've talked about this in terms of other boxers, in terms of the hunger and motivation or lack thereof. So, quick word, both from you, your reaction to the new breaking news regarding Marcos Maidana.
I'm not surprised, Mike. I'm really not surprised. See, this is what happens, right? You're sitting at home, feet up, watching TV, burrito in one hand, a mojito in the other, on the beach. Women are running by, half naked. The water. Oh, I'm sorry. That was my vacation. Ooh. My bad. That was my vacation. But no, you're sitting at home and you watching these guys fight on TV. And you just say to yourself, you go to the gym and you might have a good round or two, and you say to yourself, man, I could still do this. I might have left. I might have left too early. I might still have something in the gas tank, or I might have, still left something out there that, a stone unturned. I think I can do this, right? So what happens? You get up from that, you get up and you try to go back to something that you didn't do for 2 years. And mind you, it wasn't a situation where, like Floyd, when he was away, but he still went to the gym. Marcos wasn't going to the gym, hence why he gained all the weight he gained, right? Marcos wasn't going to the gym. Marcos wasn't running. He was doing nothing boxing related. And what happened is your mind got lazy and lax with your body. And once that happened, you get that urge. We all do. I'm almost blank. Well, I'm my birth certificate say 35, but my Cuban age is something different. So I get that same urge, right? I'd be like, man, I get out here on this basketball court. I get out here in this football court, and after about 4 minutes, like, ooh, man, where's the oxygen tank? And it happens to all of us. And Marcos finally realized that, you know what? Nah, this just might have been a facade or a phase I was going through. I'm not finna try to kill myself to get down to whatever weight I was gonna fight at. Nah, this wasn't a good idea. Let me go back. And Marvin Hagler made a very good comment. He said it's hard to get up and go train when you're sleeping in silk underwear. And that's the lifestyle McDonough got used to for 2 years. And I'm not surprised. I'm actually glad he did do it because my biggest fear was him coming back, cutting all the weight, and getting hurt or hurting himself in the process.
Mm-hmm. Some more breaking news coming down the pike. And I'll go to you on this one, Gus. Open up your mic, please. We've talked about Joe Joyce and Daniel Dubois in the past and kind of compared the two fighters at stages of their career where it looks like they have agreed to fight each other. July 13th, I'm hearing, is the date. Your reaction to the news that Dubois and Joe Joyce are going to get it on?
Surprised this happened sort of a lot quicker than what I had expected. The talk was that Joe Joyce would, Dubois, after he fights this weekend. He fights Christopher Lemaire, then he's fighting Nathan Gorman, which I heard was going to be for the British title. So, bit of a surprise. But Joe Joyce recently has had a U-turn, as you know, Mike. He's gone left Abel Sanchez, and he's gone over to Vauxhall with Adam Booth now. So, for his first fight, potentially, a very dangerous opponent. Yeah, I am surprised, Mike. You would have thought, a first fight with a new trainer, acclimate to the new trainer, learn, his defensive techniques. Because Adam Booth is a very different fighter. He tends to pick fighters more with that athletic ability, guys more explosiveness, more sort of reflex-based fighters. Guys who tend to sort of lean back inside the pocket using more sort of upper body movement. That's the sort of modus operandi of fighters he likes to work with. Joyce is not really that at all. Much bigger, older fighter, obviously. So, surprise, Mike. But you can't complain. the British public are getting a little bit frustrated with the lack of sort of expedite of some of these young, British heavyweights. So yeah, I think it's a very good fight to look forward to.
A calculated risk, but it could be very beneficial ultimately, particularly from a financial perspective. I go to you what you need. I'm breaking these news stories up purposely again because of time. Also, news this week: Dillian Whyte has signed to fight Oscar Rivas July 20th at the O2. There may be some questions here because Rivas and had multiple eye surgeries. Rivas coming off of a stoppage win over Bryant Jennings. The question for you, what you need is:
Well, let me just.
Are you a bit surprised here?
I didn't follow that fight, so I really may not be able to comment on it.
Okay, I'll go to you. I'll go to you then, Daniel. And if anybody else want to follow up, please. Are you a bit surprised that Whyte, given what could be on the line, given his high ranking, is taking this fight? I'm looking at this, and to me, this is a very good fight. Not only is it a very good fight, but it's a very dangerous fight for Dillian Whyte. Your thoughts?
It is, but how else are you going to get the attention in order for you to say that not only should you rematch Joshua, but you should be paid good money for it by challenging yourself? And Rivas, like I said, Dillian Whyte, we know he should be the number one. He should be the mandatory for the WBC, if not for the WBC's magical machinations. But now you have Oscar Rivas, who's ranked in the top 10 on all 4 sanctioning bodies. And Oscar Rivas, who you would figure would have been Tyson Fury's first opponent in ESPN, instead of the German schmuck that they have with him now. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a good fight, and it's going to be a good test for Dillian in the way to see what he's going to do with a guy like Rivas. And if it leads to him having a strength in hand, even though we know he's still going to be at a disadvantage when it comes to negotiations with Joshua, that works well. Or in negotiations with Wilder, because for all we know, after this fight and after the Brazil fight, he will be the mandatory for Wilder's title. And Wilder, we have to admit, he doesn't really too much shy away from the mandatories unless there's money there. So it's a good move for Dillian. It's a decent calculated risk. Bring on the fight because it's going to be a cracker.
Final story here. I'll start the conversation with Bo. Given all the backlash over PED, multiple PED popping, big baby, there's a waiting period right now in terms of a substitute opponent. News broke yesterday that Ortiz turned down an offer, I think $5 million offer to fight Joshua. He felt he should get more. Andy Ruiz has been trolling Eddie Hearn in terms of talking up a fight. Don King offers, I can't remember the guy's name, he offered his heavyweight for a title opportunity against Joshua in the aftermath of Big Baby testing positive and being dumped from the fight. What have you been hearing in terms of a possible substitute? And if anybody who wants to follow up, please do.
I think the 2 names that I have been hearing that possibly could be the front runner is I think Manuel Char and Michael Hunter. But to Big Baby, I just want to say, and I've been waiting a long time to do this.
Please.
In my Fred Sanford voice, you big dummy. I'm calling him Heavy D, Heavy Dummy. Okay. But as far as Ortiz, I never knew what the amount was that they gave him. Now, if it's what you're saying, they offered him 5, but you're just about to pay, give Big Baby Miller 7. Luis Ortiz is a bigger scalp and he's more accomplished. So you should at least have offered him what you was going to give Gerald Miller. So
I think Eddie Hearn is lying, basically.
Say what now?
I think Eddie Hearn is lying. I don't think
Oh
there's
yeah.
no way Luis Ortiz would turn down that fight for 5 million. No
Yes.
way.
So if that's what, even if that's what you offer them, and they feel, wait a minute, you was about to give this guy 7, and you really gonna give us 5? Come on, Eddie. I wouldn't have a problem with that. But here's the reality, though. I think, and I've said this, I never thought when I heard that Jarrell Miller popped, I never thought that they was gonna, like, it was gonna be kind of and people get mad at me when I say it was gonna be kind of like the situation with Floyd Mayweather and Ronald Winky Wright. They made an offer, just say like, oh, we made an offer, knowing damn well that's not real. You already know you're gonna fight. Normally in a replacement fight with this short amount of time, you're not gonna put your fighter in a situation where, with only 4 weeks left to go, because it's 4 weeks for the opponent, but also 4 weeks for the guy who has to fight him to get ready for that, to have a 4-week game plan for that guy too, as well. So it's not all advantage, all advantage Joshua. It's not Joshua has all the advantage. No, yeah, he was in training camp, but he wasn't in training camp for no southpaw, or he wasn't in training camp for that type of a fighter. So I already knew that. I said, listen, man, for a replacement fighter, that they're going to go after somebody that's creditable, but not extremely exceptionally dangerous. Michael Hunter is creditable. I just don't think he's that dangerous, but he is credible. Emmanuel Char, I've been hearing his name, but he just failed a drug test. So I don't know why you even take that seriously. But it's a shame, man, because I thought Big Baby was doing a very good job of selling the fight. He was saying all the right things, talking to smack, trolling. He was doing a very good job of selling that fight. But it's very unfortunate, Mike, and I think Big Baby Miller's, as far as I'm, his career, in my honest opinion, is done, because it goes back to that mental. When I saw him make that apology, and Big Baby's one of them guys got to talk smack to get himself going. Well, when he made that apology, that was a humble dude. He had to change his whole mental makeup, and then who's
And
going
he
to
can't
believe
be the
him
same
now?
coming back.
That's what I'm saying. He can't be the same coming back, and that's what gets him going. And right now, you failed 3 different drug tests, A samples, with 3 different things in your system. So his career might be done. Like, this is beyond Povetkin type stuff. So, and it's very unfortunate, man, because he was being looked at as a player in the heavyweight division.
And it shows how far he's gone down. While Joshua kept it above the fray for the most part. What he said about how he can still help his mama out, I'm sorry, that's a pimp ass line right there. That's player shit right there. And he can't do nothing about it.
Well, Mike, hold on. Keep in
Nothing.
mind, he said it while sitting with his shirt off.
Exactly. That's my point. That's a pimp move, man. He did that on purpose, and Miller can't say a damn thing. Nothing. Even if he tries to attempt to come back, he can still say nothing. That's boss. That's boss right there. But anybody who wants to comment on a substitute opponent, please do.
Well, this show has been breaking the news all night, and it looks like possibly there is breaking news, not confirmed. However, a fight poster has been leaked to social media. That's not exactly verification, but one of the names in the mix, legitimately in the mix this week, has been Mexican-American heavyweight Andrew Ruiz. I'm thinking that looks darn likely. So
did he just fight though?
He did just fight, but he had a very easy fight. He says he's ready. He's, sometimes when somebody's, had a fight where they haven't done a lot of damage, to themselves in the ring, he's trained. Andy's a big guy. He doesn't exactly strain himself to display a 6-pack in the ring, if you know what I'm saying. He's a big guy. At him, and he's ready to go. He says he's ready to go. He's available. It's makeable. He's not a bad talent. Let's remember his sole loss was a somewhat controversial loss to Joseph Parker. So
and a lot of people felt he beat Parker that night.
And I was one of them. It was a very close fight. So it doesn't fall in the robbery category, but he put on a darn good fight. And I would have scored it for Ruiz. And Parker didn't have a great performance that night. So it's makeable. It's feasible. The numbers are there. he's legitimate. I don't know if he's in the top 10, but I think he is ranked in the top 15 in the division. At this point, he's looking pretty good. That fight is 5 weeks away. They have got to save that fight. Adam Kodaki, Miller's pal in Brooklyn and sort of stablemate, turned it down. So they're running out of names fast.
You was want to have a word about this, Gus?
No, I was just gonna say, Mikey. I mean, goddamn, Gail mentioned Big Boy. Goddamn, was Andy Ruiz's breast jingling all over the place against Dimitrenko.
Oh my
That shit was disturbing.
Yeah, I don't think Andy misses too many meals.
He's a good little fighter, good little counter puncher. But
And he's quick-handed as well for a guy his size.
Yeah, he's a lot better than what he physically looks. Yeah, aesthetically looks. Yeah.
What set of questions here in the YouTube chat before we go on? A lot of questions for you, Gail from Punch for Pound, who's listening live right now. You asked in terms of where to follow Gail on Twitter and whatnot. She will give that at the very end of the show. I'll ask this question for Gail, and Bo, you may know this about this as well, given your contacts with Three Kings. Word is that Loma is going to be fighting in September. Do you have any idea against whom? He's asking, Gail, have you heard anything about Dimitri Bivol and what's up for him next?
Luke Campbell in the UK.
For
Lomachenko.
Yeah. That'd be a smart fight. That would be a brand building fight. He's willing to get on the road and do it. I'd be all for that. Bivol needs to see how the next couple of fights shake out. We have Beterbiev on the lineup here coming up. Be very interesting to see how he performs and see where that fight leads. He's got options, but he's going to want to see some of these other performers. I don't think we're going to see Bivol back in the ring before late summer or early fall. And depending on what level of opponent he can get, perhaps one more fight right before the end of the year. He's had Thanksgiving weekend fights the last several years in a row. So that seems to be the rhythm for him. But I think he is waiting for a few more of the light heavyweight division fights that are on the books right now to finish up. And I think negotiations will happen pretty quick for him. He's able to appear just about anywhere. He and his management team and his co-promoters, which are World of Boxing and Main Event both, are pretty versatile players. Right now, Main Events is doing a lot of sort of subcontracting out with Top Rank. So it presents some interesting possibilities.
Hey, you got, you're forgetting one thing. I didn't see it on the docket. Let me make sure. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Oh, yeah. There's a possibility that Mikey Garcia is going to be vacating the WBC belt.
No, he already did. He did.
Okay. All right.
Like he has been named champion emeritus, which is going to make the Luke Campbell fight very interesting because that means
Mikey has vacated.
Yeah, Mikey's been named like champion emeritus.
Okay.
So now
which he clearly doesn't deserve.
Yeah. Well, it's a WBC. They always do this, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah, they did it for Dennis. You're right.
Only in the event of an injury. They shouldn't be just doing it routinely.
Yeah, we know, but the WBC, man. But at the end of the day, this means that Luke Campbell's next fight should be for the vacant WBC title. So if Loma's next opponent is Luke Campbell, there's a chance for Lomachenko to really, really be the real dominant player at lightweight, claim the WBC title, which would in effect pretty much force Comey to make that fight with Loma. So then Loma could actually achieve something he could achieve something that his stablemate Usyk has done.
Yeah,
Unified division.
yeah, that's it. Richard Comey and Loma could potentially be for undisputed, which would be fantastic.
Let's move on to preview some fights here, and y'all may have to step away, um, and let Gus and I have the floor for a little while in
Are
terms
you
of the first fight we're going to talk about here.
out? Are you geeking out?
Indeed, I am.
Good.
As Friday in Inglewood, going to be aired on the Zone. Highly anticipated rematch between Srisaket or Rungvisai facing his number one contender, Juan Francisco Estrada. WBC super flyweight title on the line. As far as I'm concerned, two of the top 10, top 15 pound for pound fighters in the world. They're getting it on. They fought early last year. Srisaket won in a very entertaining fight. Um, Estrada has been hungry for a rematch, and on paper, this looks to be another sensational fight, Gus. The question for
Absolutely.
me is, given what has happened outside of the ring for Rungvisai, the breakup with his girlfriend, I think he's now getting remarried, the deal he signed with the kind of MMA promotional company who's ventured in boxing, the fact that he's also signed a co-promotional deal with DAZN, he's making a lot of money now. Given what we saw in his last fight against Diaz, which he won, it wasn't that impressive, and he lacked a bit of the spark that we saw in the Estrada fight, as well as the two Chocolatito fights. Is he fully invested? Because if he is not, given how hungry Estrada is, Gaio will win this fight.
I mean, there was no doubt he was definitely reticent about a rematch, which clearly could have taken place on Superfly 3. He realized it was a difficult first fight, potentially the rematch as well. So he was more in favor of, 2 or 3 showcase fights back in Thailand where he would be the significant ace side. He would be headlining, massive shows, and they were fantastic shows, culminating in sort of mixed martial arts and boxing, in front of a massive sort of partisan home crowd. He's had a very difficult career, Mike. He left Thailand, he moved to Japan, suffered a lot of defeats, had to really learn boxing from the start. He was 2 defeats, 1 draw after a few fights. So you couldn't argue. I mean, you couldn't deny a man who wanted to finally enjoy the spoils of his long, hard endeavors. But I've seen a bit of wear and tear in these fights. Diaz fight, it was more the sort of style matchup. Diaz was a taller, more upright fighter, but he used a lot more movement and he threw a lot more bait punches, forcing Srisaket at times to sort of overcommit the way he does, because he tends to dip low, look like he's going low, but he'll come back and fire up top. Diaz was just moving away, moving laterally, coming back and firing short, crisp right hands, which dropped Srisaket twice in the fight, which unfortunately were ruled as no knockdowns. And if you go back to Srisaket's career, Mike, I've seen 6 knockdowns where he's had, which have been ruled. Uh, they've not been correctly ruled, so he's had the benefit of the doubt. So flash knockdowns, he tends to suffer them because he's very open. Aggressive power punches, he tends to overcommit a little bit too much. When you're firing 95% power punches as he does, um, um, you're super aggressive and you're open. You're opening up your shoulders, your hands are obviously away from your head, so counter punches can definitely cause him problems. And in this fight, Mike, now Estrada, what he did in the first fight, now he had a very good sequence in the first 2 rounds where he was using lateral movement from a defensive perspective, and then counter punching. But in rounds 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I felt he made the mistake of trying to lead as opposed to trying to counter. And Srisaket was actually surprised him by countering Estrada. Estrada couldn't quite differentiate. Srisaket throws a very weird punch, Mike. He tends to throw a swivel jab, stroke right hook. And Estrada didn't quite read that punch, and it seemed to be connecting with sort of regularity. And that was the problem. When Estrada tried to create a distance and try and lead from long range, he was getting caught. But after round 7, when he made the adjustment again by trying to minimize the distance, not give the power puncher the space to try and open up with hooks to the body and up the top, try and shorten the punches, he was having more success. And, that just reinforces, counter punches. What they tend to do, they don't really need that space or time. And the referee, Mike, now I felt Dave Moretti's scorecard was the better card in the first fight. He had adjudicated a 114, which I felt is the correct decision because Estrada won 9-10. He lost. No, he lost. He won 8-9. He lost 10, and he won the 11th and the 12th. So I felt 6 rounds each was a fair score, but I don't think Estrada did significantly enough to, to physically seize the title away from the champion. But it's a hard proposition in the rematch because Rungvisai threw 250 punches more than Estrada. But Estrada being a cerebral, well-timed counterpuncher, his connect rate was a lot better. But the judges are not going to see the little nuances he does at short range when you throw a little check left hook when he's trying to break right, little hooks to the body. So the judges I don't think have the competency to look at the great work that he's doing at those short distances. So Srisaket creates almost that optical illusion. He's on the front foot, he's throwing aggressive punches. You can hear him grunting as well. So it's very easy to, if it's a close round, to give him the edge because it appears he's doing the greater work. But in the end, if you try and calculate the punches that actually landed in the first 2 fights, there was only about 10 or 15 punches, the differential between the two, even though Srisaket threw 250 odd more punches. So that shows like it's going to be a very difficult fight to score as well. But is Estrada going to be able to try and throw more punches, which he will need to do? And at this stage of his career, Mike, I'm not sure he can. I think he can definitely start better, and he knows in the middle rounds that he made mistakes of trying not over trying. He tried not over committing, but he tried to sort of lead, and that really wasn't his. His genetic sort of DNA makeup. What he's best at. He's best off counter punching, forcing Srisaket to overcommit so he's able to counter him, which he was able to do in the sort of latter portions of the fight. So he is a perennial slow starter. He's going to have to start faster. I saw a very recent interview with both of them. Estrada looked fantastic condition, Mike. He looked ready. His body language was good. He felt his game plan was this time is now well calibrated. So to me, he appears to be the more confident fighter, and from a mental standpoint, a guy who really wanted the rematch. That's a good indication to me. But my worry is that it's going to be a better fight than the first fight. I think Estrada is going to be better as well, but I'm not sure whether his work is going to be rewarded by the judges, Mike. I'm not sure. Srisaket will always have the benefit of the doubt in these fights because Estrada is not going to outwork him. He may outland him, but Srisaket will always do more damage with his punches because he's probably more heavier handed as well. So it's going to be a very difficult task for Estrada. I think he can win the fight, but I'm not sure whether he's going to get the verdict on the cards, Mike.
I'm going to open up the discussion for everybody else. Your thoughts on Rungvisai Estrada 2?
I'm writing it in that I will be there ringside covering the fight on Friday night. It is a stupendous main event. We're going to have round 13 to start off with, but I do concur with Gus after having watched the workouts, listening to these guys, watching the run up to the fight. Estrada wants this. Estrada is in phenomenal condition. Rungvisai seemed very, he was very quiet, very reticent to engage. He's a somewhat quiet personality, but he's never been what I would think of as shy, and he's certainly not unable to express his confidence in himself. It's just the tiniest little crack in the armor. And Gus is seeing it. I'm seeing exactly the same thing. I will also say, stacked card is a cliche. This is a stacked card of current talent and rising stars, top to bottom. I'm not a shill for DAZN. I don't own stock in DAZN. Nobody's paying me from DAZN, nothing like that. But if you've been on the fence about plunking down some money to see some fights on DAZN, for goodness sakes, now is the time to do it. There's going to be more good boxing on DAZN in that next 30 days. You will get your $19.99 for sure. And this card starts, I believe the televised cards start at 7:30 Eastern time, 4:30 Pacific. And you're just going to see a hell of a lineup, including a unification fight on the co-main between Daniel Roman and TJ Doheny, which should also be a super fight. And Jesse Vargas and Humberto Soto, that is going to be damn entertaining in an arena full of people in Los Angeles, believe me.
I'll go to you, Bo and Daniel, quickly. Your thoughts on the rematch between Rungvisai and Estrada?
I'm elated. I've always said the lower weight divisions historically never get the type of respect they should get, and they make, in my honest opinion, they make the better fights, and they definitely make the fights you want to see. Ain't no build up for these guys. They're gonna fight, all right. And the disrespect they get irks me, because when I look at an ESPN pound for pound, and you got Earl Spencer number 5 and Golovkin number 2 and Canelo number 3, and I'm like, Spence number 5, what? and Golovkin and no Naui Noe, it irks me, it pisses me off. But this is why I love the lower weight division, because Rungvisai versus Estrada 2 is an excellent fight, just like how the first fight was. And this fight going forward is going to be therapy for me, because we just lost Zolani Tate. So
yeah, for those who don't know, Tate, who was set to fight Nonito Donaire this weekend, World Boxing Super Series bantamweight semifinal, had to pull out from that fight with Donaire earlier today due to an injured shoulder. Continue on, Bo.
Yeah, so when I look at this fight, and Gus, he has some good points. Erik Estrada is more of a methodical fighter. He figures you out. He takes his time. He fights at a pace. Then he picks it up. Rungvisai is a guy that comes out. He's going to come out. He's going to come at you. I think Gus made a very good point. I think there are things that Estrada does that go unseen to the trained eye, but also at the same time, I think this is a fight where Estrada knows that. He knows the mistakes he made. He knows some of the things that he's going to have to do differently. And he's one of those fighters that he goes into training camp, that is exactly what he will focus on. I don't expect to see the same Erik Estrada in the second fight that I saw in the first fight. But then again, there's something to be said about Rungvisai, because he has been going through things. I don't know where his mental state of mind is, but I do know that this is a guy who showed me that regardless of what's on him or if his back gets against the wall, he can be focused and push forward for the main goal when he fought Roman Gonzalez. So this is a very interesting fight, because it's the unknown. Estrada knows what he has to do. Can he do it? Rungvisai having the issues outside the ring, will that affect him? That's boxing, man.
Your thoughts, Daniel?
Oh man, this is gonna be a fun fight. This is gonna be a fun fight indeed. The first fight was really good. I agree that it was a draw. Like both Estrada and Rungvisai Did really good work in there. What's gonna be telling to me is like how Rungvisai has behaved since then. Like he's pretty much put himself in Thailand and having a couple of easy fights here and there, but now he's gonna be facing a guy who wants this belt, like a guy who feels in his way that he is, like I said, that he should have been a champion already. That he beat Roman Gonzalez before Rungvisai. So there's a guy with a chip on his shoulders, and it's gonna be a fun fight like on Friday. And everybody just grab your popcorn because it is gonna be fun.
I'm going with Estrada on this one. I think there are some situations where a fighter is so focused, so tuned in, so zoned in, so keyed up that they will not be denied. They will walk through hellfire and brimstone to get what they felt they would to get it. Um, Coupled with the fact that the way that Estrada can adjust. See, for me, I look at this fight. He went through it with Rungvisai. He tasted his power, and he's like, okay, I dealt with it. I survived, and I came back with shots of my own. So, in a sense, he knows what he can get. He can deal with in terms of SSR. Um, Put that in, and couple that with his boxing brain. I think he has a higher IQ than Rungvisai, who does things low key very well from a skill perspective. But overall, I don't think Estrada's better. Put that with the motivation, put that with the incentive, and is if what Gail is saying in terms of him being in fantastic shape, I just think he's not going to be denied. I think he's going to find a way to win, no matter what. I'm going with Estrada by this winning by decision. Winning by decision. And I'm going to go to some other fights here, and I may split this up. Again, we lacking a little bit of time on the undercard of SSR and Estrada rematch. You have a unification bout at super bantamweight as Daniel Roman, WBA champion, fighting TJ Doheny, IBF champion. Uh, I'll go to you. I'll go to you, Gail, since you're covering the Fight for Communities digital news. You've probably had a chance to check out these two sparring or whatnot in the gym. Your thoughts on this bout between Roman and Doheny? For me, uh, I don't know as much about Doheny. He just won the title. He's only made one defense. Uh, I think the consistency of Roman, I think that will serve to be the difference in this fight.
I think so. And there's always a plus when a fighter is fighting at home. And Roman grew up in the Inglewood area, in difficult circumstances, as many boxers do. So this is a homecoming fight for him, home turf. He's become so much more self-assured and confident in his skills as he deploys them more and more in successful outings. You just see him wearing it like a shield of armor. And it's going to take a lot for Doheny to push that armor away. And I don't think there's enough he can do to take that belt away. He is a relatively new belt holder, as you mentioned. And, it sometimes takes a little while for that to sink in with a fighter. So how is he wearing that? Is he got the confidence to, walk right in front of Roman and take care of business? I think it's going to be very intimidating for him. I think the atmosphere is going to be very intimidating. Now, some guys flourish in that, but Roman, there's just very few flaws in his approach. He's not a spectacular fighter, but he doesn't do anything poorly. He has no real weaknesses. So I think it's just going to be impossible for Doheny to overcome. However, I do think it'll be competitive. I think it'll be very entertaining. Top to bottom, this card is just full of those sort of smart, entertaining matchups. No blowouts, nobody quitting, nothing like that.
I'll go to you for this next fight, Gus. part of the World Boxing Super Series, super lightweight tournament taking place in Louisiana as WBA super lightweight title holder Kiryl Relikh is fighting Regis Prograis. I wrote a preview for Three Kings about this. It's going to drop soon. I want your comments on the fight now. Relikh is tough as an oak. For a tall fighter, he likes to come forward. Very good body puncher. It's a clash of styles for me, but Gus. The
Yeah.
aggressive nature of Relikh versus a Prograis who's shown the ability to fight on the outside as well as inside. He can do so with power, but it's just the consistency of Relikh, who's constantly in your face. Very good body puncher. Can take a shot. Mental and physical pressure he tries to apply on his guys all evening long, but he could be hit, and that's worrisome against someone against the power of Prograis. For me, this is going to be a dogfight. Prograis is going to be tested like he hasn't before. I'm going with Prograis in this fight, but I'm not completely confident about it. I'm not 100% confident. Your thoughts?
Had the fight been maybe a couple of years ago, Mike, I would have probably have gone with Relikh, but his performances have been a little bit inconsistent recently. He hasn't looked very good. And it's a case of a little bit of being a one-dimensional fighter as well, Mike. Um, as you mentioned, very good on the front foot, very aggressive fighter. Likes to fight at that sort of mid-range, short range, where he can actually work the body as well. But he's been open, and he's certainly been open to not only orthodox fighters who turn to southpaw, but southpaws have given him trouble in the past as well. I remember when Barthelemy was turning southpaw, at times gave him some trouble. Pick up he didn't quite pick up the lead left hand, certainly to the body, and that caused him problems. He was hurt to the body badly. I think can't remember in the first or second fight, he was quite a heavy knockdown. He looked to be in severe pain, but there was a lot of low blows sort of around that. But I think the punch that caught him that put him down was a legitimate, body punch. So there's a bit of vulnerabilities to the body, but come on, man, everybody's vulnerable to the body. It's just one of those. It's just one of those problematic areas. Um, but his chin is definitely going to be tested against Prograis, who definitely appears to have some power. Young, explosive, was using that sort of shifty defense, trying to get low against Flanagan, which worked. Was able to bully him, but he really could have put Flanagan out of his misery a lot earlier. But he pretty much was just coasting, which I didn't like, so I wasn't overly impressed. Flanagan offered absolutely no power, so there was no real risk factor. He could have, he certainly could have become a little bit more aggressive, I felt. But maybe he didn't want to risk an injury, risk a knockout, knowing that he'd probably done sufficient amounts. So maybe the final is his showcase. I just feel Mike. I think Prograis is going to. I think he's going to dominate Relikh, Mike, and he may even stop him as well. But if he doesn't, I expect a sort of a dominating performance. I think he's going to be able to hurt Relikh as well. But if he doesn't throw enough punches, then he could be in trouble, because Relikh will throw. So his defense is going to have to be good as well. He's going to have to not stay. He's going to have to use his legs and move and try and get out of the way, as opposed, because his defense is not good enough when he's a little bit stationary. He doesn't have a sound up guard position. He tries to go to that T position sometime, leave gaps, leave gaps straight through the middle as well. So not very skilled that side, but he's not really about defense. He's all about attack and offense. So, and that might just be the best strategy, Mike. So I'm going with Prograis. I think he's going to put on a clinic this time. Either comfortable points win, or I think he's got a possibility of a late stoppage.
Going to you both for this last topic here. And never mind, I'm not even going to address that in the chat. Robert Easter Jr. fighting Rances Barthelemy. Um, well, no, fuck that. I've been doing this for a while. I cut short personally because of time. Uh, I don't rush. I'm selective. Let me just say that. I appreciate you listening, but if you got a problem, leave. And I'll just leave it at that with that for the comment in the chat. Um, Going to you, Bo. Uh, Robert Easter Jr. Rances Barthelemy. For me, this is gonna be rude. To me, this is a fight between dumb and dumber. Bo, I know Bartholomew is Cuban, but his last couple of times in the ring, I don't understand his fight plan. And I haven't understand Easter's fight plan, his approach to the boxing ever since he won the title against Comey. So it's kind of a perfect matchup because neither of these fighters have been really using their boxing brain in there. I don't get what they're doing. I don't get what their approach is. And because of that, this is a difficult fight to call. Your thoughts? Are you there, Bo?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot I had it on mute. It's funny you say that, Mike, because one thing we do know is, well, this fight won't be done at a distance. The two guys, they'll definitely fight up close. I don't even think Rances Barthelemy even knows what his fighting style he wants to be anymore. And again, he's another guy for whatever reason decided to change his style. He changed something that was working for him. And like you said, as late here lately, it just hasn't been working out for him, and it hasn't been working out for Robert Easter either. So this is, in my opinion, this is a fight where whoever decides to go 3 or maybe 4 rounds where they actually use their height and reach could possibly win the fight. But honestly, this is in my honest opinion, it's a decent fight. It's a former world champion. It's two guys. It's a guy that's a former world champion. Okay, a guy that probably, if he doesn't win this fight, he could find himself in the middle of obscurity, and that's Rances Barthelemy. So it's a good enough fight to gain some interest because we don't know which Rance we're going to get. We don't know which Robert Easton Jr. we're going to get. And like, honestly, again, the 140, the 135-pound division, it's starting to get a little thin up there. So this is an interesting fight because whoever loses it's like, where do you go from here? Because you're going to be pushed to the back of the bus. The loser is going to be pushed to the back of the bus.
Yeah, and I think we're going to start to shut down the show. On that note, I want to thank everybody for joining us in the chat, live YouTube chat. Who was it? Unrivaled, Joe 56984, Big Rotten Apple. Want to thank him for live for joining us in live YouTube chat. Again, if you like what you've heard, please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button, and also subscribe to us on iTunes, SoundCloud. Join us on Spotify as well. And if you leave a 5-star review on iTunes, it'll get read on the show. Before I go around the panel here, what you need, you hadn't heard from him. He had to dip out early. I want to thank him for joining us on the show. If you want to check him out, Talking Boxing, you can check him out on his YouTube page. What you need, that is WATTUNEEED. Again, WATTUNEED. He does a lot of breakdowns of the sport, fighters, breakdowns of certain fighters, breakdowns of certain eras, as well as recapping fights as well. Going around the panel here, though she was a little bit late, I wasn't able to start with ladies first. I'm going to end the show starting with ladies first. Gail from Communities Digital News, for those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk Dancing with the Stars, Game of Thrones, small business and media advice. Let the folks know where they can find you.
Yes, indeed. Apologies for being late, but what a good show tonight. We had so much ground to cover, and we did it.
For that aforementioned guy in the chat, that's why, because it was so much we had to cover. I had to cut things short, so this thing would be 3 hours long. You can't understand that? Sorry.
That's right. But we are all available and eager to talk boxing on social media anytime. It doesn't have to be during a show. And for me, you can find me at PR Pro San Diego, PR Pro San Diego on social media. And my column runs at Communities Digital News. That's COM, COMM, Digi, DIGI News. comdiginews.com.
I'll go to you, Daniel, from the Inscriber, for those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk the NBA, especially when it comes to the Miami Heat. Let the folks know where they can find you. Are you there, Daniel? I don't think Daniel's there. I'll go to you.
Yeah, wait. I didn't hear you. What's up?
I was saying, for those who want to talk the sweet science, or for those who want to talk the NBA, especially as it pertains to the Miami Heat, let the folks know where they can find you.
Yes, folks, you can find me on Twitter, Ruckus99. And like I said, I do my own show with good folks for BoxingNews.com, Joe and Francis. Hopefully, we'll be doing it tomorrow night. And definitely going to preview a little bit. And we're going to catch up on some things that happened last week because, yeah, this is going to be fun because we're only a few weeks away from the big fight in May.
Indeed. Actually, not just a few weeks, a little over a week, actually. Gus from Corruption in Boxing, for those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk music, because you do a lot of music reviews, let the folks know where they can hit you up.
Yeah, Mike, thanks for another great show. What was intended to be Fellas Love Boxing before Gail decided to gatecrash the party, but no problem. You want to talk boxing?
Do what you got to do.
I said to Mike last week, I said, Mike, if I wear high heels, can I join Ladies Love Boxing? He went, no.
We do not discriminate. We do not we do not impose our version of gender fluidity on anybody. So Gus, you are more than welcome.
No problem. I'll wait 365 days there, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. And last but certainly not least, both from Truth and Facts About Sports, as well as Three Kings Boxing. For those who want to talk the sweet science or anything else, let the folks know where they, or follow the adventures of you and your daughter. Funny little series. You would the back and forth between you and your baby girl. Let the folks know where they can find you, and talk about the apps you have developed.
As always, you just have to say the best for last, and of course the prettiest. I get it. I get it. I understand it. It's tough being 50 and fly. But control yourself, Gail. Stop sending me messages. But
I'm trying to respect the sanctity of your marriage, Paul.
Yeah, I'm trying to. But you can find me Truth and Fact Sports Talk, which this year I'm going to be ramping up. I'm going to be getting with Mike. We got to do some college football because this year it was just amazing with college football. Then,
Clemson.
Yeah, man. Don't rub it in my face, Mike. Don't rub it in my face. And then, of course, basketball and all those things. So I'm really excited about what's going to be coming up in this year in 2019. Also, if everything go right, you will be seeing us, Three Kings Boxing. Hopefully, we will be at the Canelo Daniel Jacobs fight. We will be in Vegas at the Boxing Expo, so be looking for us there on that. And I'm always excited about that. Been a long time since I've been on this panel. It's always good to come here. Always good to talk boxing with people where you can express your opinion. It's not no animosity or disrespect. It's good debate, which is what boxing needs. Hate that I didn't get to see my man not Daniel, what's his name? Jacob. Yeah, hate I didn't get a chance to see Jacob on here, but maybe we catch him next time. This is a show where you have a panel that have a lot of knowledge, and that is what boxing needs. So, and then as far as my daughter, they apparently got me fucked up. They talking about her boyfriend coming over here for dinner. No.
I'm trying to tell you, man. Treat them like Will and Martin did in Bad Boys 2.
Man, look. Well, actually, a funny story. I actually asked her. I actually gave her boyfriend permission to say something that he didn't say, and I was trying to set him up, and they knew it was. So, but yeah, but she's 19 now, and she's getting at that point. I may have to ease up playing with her. She getting to that point where she's starting to get daddy the middle finger. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, what's going on?
Oh.
He started giving me, shot me a little bit, but yeah, I'm some more things are going to be coming. She's in school and she's working a job, so and because she's paying her way through college, I'm so proud of her. So she's doing that. So we got some
Oh,
things
that's
going.
awesome.
Yeah, so we do have some
From
things
everybody
going
at
on.
Pound for
She even
Pound.
mentioned to me the other day about us doing some skits. So I can't wait for that, man. I'm just always happy to be on here. I got to try to get on here more, but just like today, all the breaking news come out, and even doing the show, I in the middle of writing an article. So it's always good. I want to thank Gail. I want to thank Gus. I want to thank my man Daniel, and I want to thank you, Mike, and everybody that listened, because again, like I said, man, this is what boxing needs. And I can't wait for the day when I'm sitting. This is when I know I have become successful as a journalist. When I'm sitting at a table and right next to me is a 5-foot redhead telling me to get me my drink and hurry up, boy. I can't wait for that day. And that's when I know I will have made it in the sport of being a journalist.
I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Well, if you're anything like Jelena Mazzoni, it's going to be a fun night.
Jolene, well, we have some things in common, just a few.
And tell your daughter, congratulations from everybody here at Pound for Pound Boxing Report, and tell her keep up the hard work.
And keep the middle finger down.
Yes.
Yeah, I know it was down when she was pointing it at me. That's why she said, "No, I'm not flipping you off because it's down, not up." So
She's just you down. That's might be worse.
so she's smart.
Indeed, absolutely. For those who want to talk boxing or music or fitness with me, uh, you know what it is on Twitter, Brother JR at Brother JR76. As I said at the beginning of the show, if you want to find out all things regarding Pound for Pound Boxing Report, blog page is the place to hit up. P4pboxingreport.wordpress.com. You look to the right of the page, you can find all the links to where to find us on social media, where to find us on podcast platforms, as well as the donate button. Let donation be the next best nation. Next episode, we will do a recap of Srisaket and Estrada 2, a recap of Danny Roman, TJ Doheny, Kiryl, Relikh, Regis, Prograis, Robert Easter Jr., Rances, Barthelemy, and we will do a preview of the aforementioned Canelo Alvarez, Danny Jacobs fight is going to happen on May 4th, as well as Arthur Bertabiev. He's fighting also on May 4th, as well as Jerwin Ankanyas. He's making a defense of his IBF junior bantamweight title. I believe he's fighting his number one contender. So for What You Need, who joined us earlier in the show, for Gail from Communities Digital News, Gus from Corruption and Boxing, Daniel from The Inscriber, both from Truth and Facts about sports talk. Everybody who joined us in the live YouTube chat. This has been episode 248 of Pound for Pound Boxing Report. I am your host, Michael. We'll see you guys next time. Everyone have a good evening. Good night.